All right, it looks like everyone is logged in now, so we will go ahead and get started with today's training on OmegaRecruit, what you need for officer transitions. My name is Heather McLeod, and I have with me Sarah Beth Russell, and we are with OmegaFi's professional services team. And our team actually is responsible for training for OmegaFi products, one of which is OmegaRecruit. Just a little bit about OmegaFi before we dive into OmegaRecruit specifically. OmegaFi is the company that hosts OmegaRecruit and develops and maintains it. And we've actually been around for more than 30 years providing technology solutions to help customers with managing finances, streamlining operations, recruiting new members, as you all are very familiar with OmegaRecruit, and communicating with members. We work with 57 different national headquarters, as well as local chapters, house corporations, IFC and Pan-Hellenic councils, and alumni associations across more than 650 campuses. And we remain the industry leader when it comes to technology in the fraternity and sorority community. OmegaFi is based out of Columbus, Georgia, and we securely process more than $1.1 million per day for our customers, and we've securely processed more than 4 billion since we started in 1992. So we are deeply committed to serving and promoting and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience, and we aim to make raving fans with every individual or group that we work with by reaching and innovating and acting with agility. And we challenge ourselves to dream big every day and help others achieve their dreams. So to say that we are passionate about what we do is an understatement, and it's that passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so that you can focus on your mission and having fun. So again, just a little bit about OmegaFi. So now we will dive into your training today on OmegaRecruit. We want to make sure that you all are ready for officer transitions and elections, and you get your OmegaRecruit account all set up and ready for that. Before Sarah Beth dives into that training, let's test out your ability to ask some questions during today's training. So you should see there on your screen a little window where you can type in a question to us. So take a look at that, make sure you see it on your screen. And if you have any questions throughout the training, feel free to send those over to me and I will answer them. And I actually want to test that out real quick. So take a look at that question box on your screen. And if you don't mind, just type in your name and your chapter there. And let's make sure that those come through. So that way we can make sure that if you have any questions while Sarah Beth is going through the training, that we're able to see those. So in that question box, just type in your name and chapter. Okay, it looks like those are coming in. I see Reagan and Carolyn and Zoe. Okay, and Annie, thank you all. Sam. All right, so those are coming in. It looks like you all found that question box. Megan, thank you. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to type those in as Sarah Beth goes through the training today. I'll turn it over to you now, Sarah Beth.
Thank you, Heather. So today we will get started going over how to best use OmegaRecruit to transition your officers and get them prepared for their upcoming semester. So on the agenda today, we're going to look at pulling reports from fall. So we'll go through the reporting menu, looking at that, and just looking at all the different reports available and kind of what they do, making sure we get those pulled before we run master reset. So that's the second thing we'll talk about, is how to do that and what that's going to look like and what all that will do for the system. And then we will go into managing your users. So after your master reset, you'll want to add whoever your new officers are going to be. And so we will look at how to manage those and how to also manage any of those coming out of an officer position. So you can clean up that roster a little bit. And then we'll look at where you guys can find resources, and we'll have Q&A at the end. Okay, and so to go through our software today, basically these 3 practices are going to help you guys have the smoothest transition for your officers. So like I said, pulling in your reports, running your master reset, and managing your users. This right here is probably what most of you guys' P&M list looks like after going through recruitment. If you haven't already done your master reset, then you're going to have something similar to this where you have data information for your P&Ms on what all or for which ones had voting done for them and which are inactive and that sort of thing. So looking at this before you head into spring, you'll want to make sure in order to save any of this information, because once you do your master reset, that you pull reporting. So that way you have that externally outside of the software so you can look back on that for any reason. So when going through this, you're on your left-hand side where the P&M dropdown is here. We're currently on this P&M list. And we'll start with matching. If you guys do that and want to pull that, you probably pull those during recruitment, but you can generate your matches and pull that information if you still need that based on anybody that was voted within recruitment. So if anybody recommended a match, anything like that, you can change these as well to whatever they were during your recruitment. So if recommendations were more important than the interests of the member, or if you had certain requirements, you can update that and generate those matches if you need to retrieve those if you no longer have them from fall. And then looking at this is going to be your comment report. So any comments that were made on a user during recruitment, you'll be able to see that. So specifically here you can see there's only one comment on Ashton, but these will be from the ballot. So if we're looking at a user account, when they're going to vote, the comments are going to be anything they put in this field right here. So if we wanted to put that in there and submit that, typically your voting wouldn't be open, but just as an example. And then when we refresh this, we can see there's another one on there. So we can download that comment report if we want to make sure we have all of that information, especially if your members utilize this. And then we also have the Rex report here. So all of your reporting pretty much for the PNMs is going to be under this drop down. This particular report is going to be if you guys use this link. So not everybody uses this, but these are links that you can distribute to your alum if you want to have recommendations put in for your PNM. So basically your PNMs would reach out to get recommendations put in for them, and your alum members could submit those here. So it's essentially a recommendation or like a reference from your alumni if you guys use that link, and you can export that as well. And then here under the reports, this is where you're going to see the bulk of your reporting. So you can export all of these and you can kind of make it specific to what data you're wanting. So if you're only wanting to see active PNMs within the list, or you're wanting to include the comments on the report, for a lot of these, you'll kind of have different options to choose from to break that report down better. So for instance, if we wanted to show only the active PNMs and include any comments, when you pull that, your reporting is going to look somewhat like this. Now, any of the ones that say -1, that typically means a vote was not recorded. For these purposes, we have some data in there, but not necessarily all of it. So these are just for the PNMs that are still considered active at the end of the recruitment season, and what theirs are. But if you want to see everybody throughout recruitment, you can have it include all your PNMs and still include the comments if you want. However you're wanting to do that, to pull that information, and you can do that. You can do reporting, you can pull it by nights as well. So if you want to change your rounds, you can essentially reopen your recruitment. So under the chapter tab here, you can open rounds back up, so you can put your status for open house. And then when you go to pull those reports, this is going to show only active PNMs for open house. So you can pull it for each individual night as well. So as you continue to dwindle down, your only active PNMs list is going to get smaller based on who is invited back for each night. So if you want to break it down by each evening, you can, or you can just set it to pref night so you can see end results for your reporting. For your votes report, this is going to be all of your votes that were cast showing the PNMs, and you can also break this down by rounds as well. So you can have this as all rounds, and then you can sort it by either the user voting or the PNM that's voted on. Typically, see a lot of people use sorting it by the PNM rather than the user, but either way, so if you sort it by the user, then you'll see, if your user Ashley voted on 3 different PNMs throughout the process, it'll sort it by her and then who she voted on, whereas the opposite way with the PNMs is going to show the PNM and then who all voted on them and what their votes were. So if we want to look at that, you can download this one in an Excel file or a PDF. And so because this is by PNM, we can see here who voted. So Shelby, and then it'll tell you the member and what party she was in, what member voted, and then the scoring on that. So if you want to pull this information, you can. And that is another one, again, that you can include the vote values. You make sure to check this box if you want to be able to see the actual values on that. And this is the PDF version as well. So a little bit different of a breakdown, but you can see here the different votes that are put in, and then it'll show you for what round that was done as well if you chose the option for all rounds. If you break it down by each individual round, then you'll just see the ones for those rounds. And then here is another option for your comments. In this particular example, we don't have necessarily a lot of comments within the data, but typically as you're going through recruitment, you're going to have a lot of comments on your members or from your members on PNMs as they continue voting. So if you want to sift through those comments and be able to look at them by breakdown, you can do that here. You can do all rounds, or you can do it round by round. And then again, you can sort it by the user, PNM, and then you can also sort it by the time on this one. So whatever time that comment was put in, which might be helpful depending on what you're looking at. So pulling that, we'll pull the PDF version on this to see what it looks like. As you can see, just shows the member that made the comment and then who they commented on, or if you do that by PNM, it's going to break it down by each PNM and then say what the comment was for each of them. And then we can look at time as well. So this is just showing what date and time. And then here for the slideshow, this is good if you review your PNMs nightly. So depending on what information you need, this is going to pull into a PowerPoint, and you can include their pictures as well. You can include only the active PNMs. Like I said, if you review nightly, this is also a really good report to pull pre-recruitment to kind of like a get to know you for the PNMs. There is another source of report on the PNM list that is an in-browser slideshow, which we'll look at when we go back to the PNM list, but this one is going to export as a PowerPoint. This one doesn't have necessarily as much information as the in-browser slideshow, but if you prefer the PowerPoint over that, you can pull that and then add information if you want. And then here is your voter distribution. This is going to show a few different things depending on what you're wanting to look at. You can also break these down in a few different areas, but this is going to show how those votes were distributed. So round one, see how many votes for whatever vote value, that sort of thing. It's going to show you this breakdown here. So it's not going to show you individual votes, but this will just show kind of your average of what votes were given out. So, you know, if it seems like everybody's really liking everybody, you can look at the votes and see what's going on. Maybe everybody is giving out fives, and, you know, then you can have discussion on how to better adjust those votes through the process. So that's good to have. And then also good to see just after recruitment, the PNMs that went through what exactly the allocation looked like. And then here is your vote audit report. This is actually a new report that we have, but this is a helpful tool. Previously, we did not have a way to look at any changes that were made to votes. Now with the vote audit report, if any votes were updated within the time of recruitment or even after, any of those votes that were updated, when you pull this vote audit report, it's going to tell you who updated that, what that vote was originally, and then when it was changed. And so here you can see vote was changed by, the old vote value, the new vote value, and then who that PNM was, and then for what round. So this is just good to show any changes that were made. This kind of helps keep the integrity of the voting, and a good report to pull at the end of everything to see how much exactly was gone through and changed during the recruitment process. Okay, and then to take you back to the PNM list here, some other, hold on, let me set this to pref, some other reports that we can see. If you go to the menu icon, the little hamburger looking icon up here in the right hand corner, this is where you can pull the in-browser slideshow. So when you click on that, you can use your arrow keys to go through that. This has a bunch of different information. So if you're wanting to look at all this as a whole, depending on what you're wanting, you know, looking at people's GPAs, whatever it may be, you can pull this and you can print it. If you hit the P key on your keyboard, it's going to turn the screen blue here, and you can right click and print that. So just make sure if you do print it that you are loading this preview and sizing it, or, you know, putting it to scale correctly so that all the information you're wanting fits onto that. And then when you're done, you can hit escape. And one other thing with that is if you do want to change any of the information that's on the page, you can do that with the little menu here. You can take off the picture, you can take off the votes they got, any tags they might have, anything like that. You can kind of change that accordingly based on what you guys are looking for. And then the other one is you can export your PNM list. So this is, again, a really great one to see kind of an overall view of your PNMs. So if you want to do that night by night, again, you can just go to the chapter tab over here, and under the advanced parties and rounds, you can move it back. So you can do it by each night if you'd like, or you can just do it at the end kind of snapshot. So for pref, what that kind of looked like as you guys came to a close. And when you export that, it comes in an Excel file, and it gives basically a breakdown of everything that's in that PNM list. So you're going to see there what pool they were in, their first and last name. And then here you can see any of them that are in regret. So those are your inactive PNMs, and then all the votes that are associated with each of them. And it then gives you also a breakdown of those votes and then their overall, how many people voted on them, and their statistics as well. So if you're wanting to look at information such as like average high school GPA that came through, anything like that, it has all that information in here, as long as you had that when you uploaded your PNMs. So after looking at all your reporting, after you've pulled everything, you can also look at the hub and pull some of these graphics here. So these graphics are stats and you can flip this over and it'll show you the chart. You can pull these as well. They represent different things. So if you're wanting to see your P&M statuses versus the round, your vote versus legacy, anything like that, if these pertain to you and you want to pull that information, these are great visuals, but you can also pull the data that's associated with that. And now with the voter distribution that was mentioned earlier, there are two places that you can actually look at a further breakdown of that. So going back to the P&M list, if we want to look at a specific, you can see their recruitment stats here. And when you're on that user, you can download the full voting distribution for all of those members. So you can get to that screen by going to the P&M list and then clicking on a member, but then you can download the full voting distribution here. This just shows for each P&M what that voting distribution looked like for them. And you can do that in the opposite effect with your users as well. So if you want to see their voting distribution by user rather than by P&M, you can go to their user and then download the voting distribution for that. Additionally, you can download or you can review their votes and comments here. These will all be in the reports that you pull and notated who made the votes and everything. But if you do want to see a further breakdown before you master reset, you can see that here. So after looking at everything, if you feel like you've gotten everything you need, you are ready to do your master reset so you're able to start spring fresh. So under the chapter tab here, you can see we have a few different tabs up at the top. Master reset is the last screen here. So you want to read through this carefully, making sure you understand what the master reset is going to do. So the reason we pull all the reporting is because that master reset is going to wipe all that information that you previously had. So all your votes, all your P&Ms, everything like that will be wiped from the system, ready to start fresh. So as you can see here, it tells you what all is in that. So once you do your master reset here, all of this sets back. You are going to still keep your users. So as you can see, we don't have anything in this list. It's telling us to go ahead and start on over. So you can go ahead if you want and put in your spring recruitment dates if you know those already, and it'll kind of let you start playing within the system from there. But that is where you do your master reset. Now, one thing to note about the master reset is during the summer, that is done automatically on our end. We do a full master reset that does also remove any of your users. So your users do have to be added back before fall, but it will not remove your admin users. So with the master reset you do on the chapter level, you're not going to lose your users, but make sure that you're assigning the appropriate users to admin level. So when the master reset during the summer is done, that they are still able to have access and then add users come next fall. So if we go and look at our user list now, we can see that's still intact. But to update that accordingly, you want to just make sure anybody who needs to be listed as admin is, or if somebody is coming out of the admin role, you can uncheck them here, and then you can also delete members under this right here. So when you hit the delete, it'll take them off. You can restrict members as well. You may not necessarily need to use this until closer to spring recruitment. Maybe if somebody is on probation and they're not able to vote, you can restrict them, but they still have access to the system. Essentially, this is where you can make all those updates. And this is also where you can star members. So if you do use the matching feature, you can star your users. So if there's people who are particularly good at talking to new or PNMs, and you want them to talk to the most girls, you can star them to have optimal matches. But this is where you will manage that. If you want to add a user, so if your admin is not somebody who's currently on the list or new people need to be added, you can go to under the user dropdown, add users, and do that here, either individually or if you already have your list of people for spring, you can upload that in a file. So for example, the PNMs who just came through that are, we're given bids, we're new members, and by the time spring rolls around, will be initiated. You can add them in so they'll be able to vote on any spring recruitment that may be occurring. And you can do that by uploading them with a file. All you need is the first and last name and the email address when you upload them, and it will get them into the system. Now, one thing I would caution you on this with is make sure you're using the correct email. If you guys have multiple different Omega Fi applications that you use, so if your members use My Omega Fi for billing, or if you use Omega One, if you want those accounts to be linked, then make sure you are using the same exact email that they used for the other one. Or if you have single sign-on and you use your national organization login credentials to log in, make sure that that is the same email you're getting added to OmegaRecruit with. So as admins, just make sure you are checking that information when you are uploading these members so that they can get logged in correctly. And then while you are going through this kind of transitional process, there is a lot of training material out there to help once your new admins are in the system or to help you with that transition. So we have this training tab here. This is going to take you through mock recruitment. So this is more how to set up your account to do recruitment. And like I said, if you're doing a trial recruitment with the fake data that we have provided, this is going to be kind of a good example for setting that up. So good for admins who are coming in who maybe don't know exactly how to do that. This is going to be a really great guide to that with the screenshots there for them to visually go through that as well. Now the Help Me tab, this is going to be a little more helpful in terms of just general FAQs, things that they may have questions for. They can use the search bar and you can look at, search something here and it will pull you up any articles that are related to that. And so you can use this as a general guide. Also looking at maybe if you want to see like what type of reporting to get a specific information, you can look that up here to see what exactly report you're wanting to try and get and where to find that. The last place you can go if you're not able to find something here or under the training icon, you can do get help, and this is going to take you to our knowledge base system. Similarly to the FAQ page, you can search in here and it will pull up articles related to whatever you're looking for that you can review to find the answers for your questions. Now, if after looking at both this and the other two options, you are not able to find the information you're looking for, you can always submit a request. This is the same as emailing our recruitment support. So when you put that in, whatever you're looking for, choose the issue and then put all your information in. Now this does allow for attachments. So if you're having a specific problem and you want to add some screenshots of what you're looking at, the more information you can give our support team, the better they're going to be able to assist you. So once you have all the information in, you could submit that request and it will head over to our recruitment support and they will get back with you with that information. So that is kind of a general overview of what this time of year should kind of be looking like for you guys. So we will now go into Q&A.
Thanks, Sarah Beth. Oh, sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, you're good.
Okay. It looks like we don't have any outstanding questions. Of course, if anybody has any within the next couple of minutes, feel free to type those in there. Just a couple of things I wanted to reiterate that Sarah Beth has covered, and then also talk about kind of next steps for those of you that have officer elections coming up, or if you've already had them. So just to recap, the main points from Sarah Beth's training is you want to make sure that you get out there into your OmegaRecruit account, download the reports that you need, get all the information that you need from fall before you run the master reset, because once the master reset, once you run that, all of that data from the fall is deleted and cannot be recovered. So it's important that you download the reports before you run the master reset, but of course the master reset's very important too, because if you're adding any new users, you may not necessarily want them to be privy to the voting history from the previous recruitment season. And then, of course, when you're adding your new users and officers, please make sure that you're entering in the email address that they normally use for their login. That's probably the biggest question that we get as users are changing out is, I don't know what my username is, and that's because the incorrect email address was entered for them. So just wanted to reiterate those 3 points about the reports, master reset, and then adding the new users. And then, of course, we have on the screen here how you can get assistance, or any new officers can get assistance. We've got the very, very helpful help center, also known as a knowledge base, out there available in OmegaRecruit, where you can go type in your question and get that answered right there in just a couple of seconds. We also have our recruitment support email address there, recruitment_support@omegafy.com. So feel free to reach out if you need anything. And then lastly, I'll just mention that at the end of this month, we will have another webinar. It'll be after Thanksgiving, but we'll have another webinar at the end of November for the new officers that may be added within the next few weeks, and then we'll have training again in December and January, of course. But we're going to do another webinar for any new officers, new users, to make sure that they or you all are ready for recruitment for the spring if you have that, or even preparing for next summer. We'll make sure that everybody's trained and ready to go. So be watching your inboxes for that invitation, and if you need to share that with anyone else within your chapter, feel free to do that, so that we can make sure everybody gets the training that they need and that you all are comfortable with using the system. So I think that is it for today in terms of training and prepping for officer elections and officer transitions. Of course, feel free to reach out if we can help you with anything, and we appreciate everyone attending the training today. I hope you all have a great afternoon. Thank you all.